Hola, hello, hello. I'm Alex Levin. This is Rocky 2. Usually here Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Sunday mornings. I had a little technical difficulty this morning, so we're re-recording this afternoon. Some of you might have been with us in the morning and the sound went out. So doesn't hurt to have another practice in the afternoon. And thanks for joining whenever you do, coming into our sun and moon portal. So the idea of being right here, and how do we do that? I was listening to interview with Krista Tippett with David Whyte, the poet, Whyte. I think it was pre-recorded. I think it was 3 or 4 years ago. And he was mentioning that to enter into that place of uncertainty, it takes two things that are very challenging for us. The first is that we let go of the conversation. So letting go of the conversation, maybe that is literally the conversation that's happening between you and another person at the moment. He says as we get better and better at it, that we can even do it midstream. And it could be a conversation between two groups of people. It could be sort of a dynamic that you're having with someone or a group of people. And that skill of catching ourselves, seeing that we're sort of caught in the same, and being able to step off that same train. And then the second part is to be able to, I forget his exact poetic words, but is to engage with, to really enter into the silence of uncertainty. And that's why we practice. We practice all that we do to get better at those two steps. I was thinking about the conversation. So lately in these videos, these streaming times, I've been sharing how we can freshly comment on what's happening just right here. And it's part of this, but what those two steps are sort of before even the language comes in. However, language comes in super fast. And it does also come in habitually. So we can pair this as we practice today a little bit of movement. And movement is a really neurologically powerful way to practice and to be able to recognize where we are in the same old conversation, uh, where we can sense into and feel what is the body telling us, what is the sensation we're having through our arms or through our hip bones, through our feet, through our spine, through our breath. And then see, it's almost comes naturally out of that deeper engagement with our self, with our body, with the parts of ourself, that the fresh language comes. And we can give it plenty of time, space, time, slow it down. It's really useful to do that. When we're moving fast, it's more of a tendency to just get into the whatever was the status quo. And then we can luxuriantly spend time in that pause, the pauses that we do arrive at, that come to us, the graceful pauses, and get more and more familiar with that. And yeah, I'll say more as we go. So today what you'll need is some space. He's gone to a cooler room, I think. So space for you to stretch your body out on the ground. We will be supine. Best to be on your back. If you really, really can't be on your back, I'm not sure what to do. Maybe imagine doing it, because it's not quite the same with respect to gravity. If you can be on your side on the ground, that can work as well. And from there, you could either have your meditation be there on the ground, so it'll be about 10 minutes movement, 10 minutes meditation. Or you can slowly transition from our reclining place of movement and observation to a seated posture, or whatever position you'd like to take for meditation. So you may want something under your head, you may want something under your Knees. Despite a warm afternoon, it's feeling a little chillier here in this space. I'm going to join you for this. It's really delicious and a nice thing to be doing this afternoon. Hopefully you can hear me well enough. And so here we are. Just stretch yourself out on the ground. It'd be a delicious movement snack. Movement, but first stillness. And even as we're still, there is movement happening in our stillness. There's the attention coming to meet the low back, the upper back, the feet, all in as they meet the ground, and what richness, what sensations, what utterances are happening from the body in this particular place of allowing ourselves to be held here by this, at least for now, very, very solid, very, very reliable support. Take time to savor, enjoy, celebrate as you'll feel changes come in. And in particular, we'll be looking for how to let go of tension that we really don't need to be holding on to. So if your legs are stretched out and you're ready, bend your knees, stand the feet, and find a way for this to be super, super easy. So maybe the knees even lean against each other, or perhaps they're just apart. We'll be doing not a huge movement as I usually do, but with big benefits, big experiential bucks. You can, as I said, lean your knees against each other, or just find a place where the feet aren't sliding, but there's literally no effort needed to keep them up. And then lift your hands up in front of you. My eyes are closed, and just let your arms be like columns vertically, perpendicular to the ground. And a few times reach the arms upward toward the sky, and then just drop them like we did from standing, dropping the post with our whole body a few weeks ago. Maybe it was just last week. So the reach and just boom, drop. So you feel that sort of duck foot of the shoulder blade, like a shape of a sort of triangular. It's a little hot. Keep yourself comfortable. And as you've got your arms here, this is something that might be echoing a little thing we did with Eric Schiffman where we were on our sides and we just let the arms, one arm be straight up in the air. And I was amazed at how it stood there by itself. It's almost like legs standing. And as you do this, maybe you're marveling as I have, and maybe you'll sense that there is some tension to let go of. There's some, tension and compression, they get a bad rap in a way, but they do help us. They help steady us. They help support us in some ways. But what often happens is we hold on to it more than we need. And this way of just checking, how much do I need? How much work needs to be done here? And you may find it to be less and less. Interlace your fingers. And if you did that with your eyes closed, isn't that amazing? And then reach up with the interlaced hands toward the sky and then back down. And maybe that could be just the tiniest movement. Relaxing, perhaps if you've noticed that maybe the jaw could relax a little more, perhaps the forehead, any holding in the belly, preventing more free breath. Maybe you're just still for a little while at some place on this small range of motion, and again checking for what might I let go of? What conversation can I simply step out of? And then release your arms for a moment. Just let them back down on the ground. If you like, you can stretch your legs out again. Back to where we started on the ground on our backs, and see what is new here. Feeling it through the feeling tone, the felt sense, the emotions, the physical sensations that are really only accurately known right here, right now. If you'd like to stay longer, that can feel really delicious. You might want to come back or stop the recording and come back. We'll take one more variation here, taking the arms right up like columns and just let them settle down vertically, but settle into the shoulder blades, and maybe the arms rotate a little in and out. You could do all this, can be a much longer lesson that I'll probably elaborate on this week on Wednesday, when I'll be subbing for Annie's Dharma and meditation in the studio, but also here on YouTube. Interlace the fingers again, maybe the same way, or maybe the other thumb on top. And now, as you go up with the hands and arms, make a little, as if a little wheel, a little front tire of your bicycle, but a small one, so that the arms just as one column, not really bending at the elbow, but just as if you're drawing this circle, moving towards your forehead, up toward the sky, toward your feet, toward the heart. Small. My circle feels like it's maybe the size of a quarter, or a little bigger, maybe size of a silver dollar. Small is good, or maybe bigger, maybe the size of a smaller than a baseball circumference. And just notice the shoulders, the shoulder blades, the delicious feelings, perhaps, or maybe your words will be different. The feel between the shoulder blades. And there are options at a lot of places in the body, different things. So, depending on what the head is doing and what the spine is doing, what the pelvis is doing, you can create different massaging effects. Did you change direction? Did I ask you to do that? If you haven't, do that a few times. And I'm going to stop here, but you can keep going. You could stop and do some more. You can vary the movement, maybe tilting a little side to side, or do the movement with your head to one side and the other. Even in a short amount of practice, when we come back to stillness and just observing and sensing the wholeness of ourself, we may notice quite a contrast. We might let in more of our essential self, our true self. Savor. And if you name as accurately as you can. Poetically, perhaps, a few words rather than just one, several words, without limiting yourself to complete logic, but rather to the broader language available through poetry. Also, something David Whyte spoke of in this interview. The more precise language, ironically, sort of, than science gives us. And you might choose to just stay on your back for the meditation, or roll up on your side, or something from the ground there. I'm going to transition, and if you join me to come up to seated, do it slowly, taking in perhaps the new sort of shapes that you feel. Something is different. Take your time to arrive here and not hurry to set up the meditation cushion, but take your time. And if you stayed in the reclining position, just relax and enjoy and take in what's happening there. And we'll segue to approximately 10 minutes of meditation. So, new position, fully arriving. Attentively selecting, and even if you've done this thousands, hundreds of thousands of times, always useful to go through the setup. And the code word ground is sensing what supports us, how our feet and pelvis are placed, what support we've added under our knees or pelvis, and how the vertical spine connects ground and the heavens. It doesn't necessarily take a lot of fuss, but it's worth getting it just right for today. And just as we were looking for in the movement to see how can we give up the tension we might be hoarding. Relax our eyes, whether they're slightly open, gazing without focus at the ground, or closed. We might pay extra attention to the tongue, relaxing in the lower palate. We can feel into how we are held by Earth and her gravitational hug. A second code word, breath, can help us stay in this right here groove. and sound, which is sound. Notice for yourself how sound can transport you right into this magical present moment. But sound is also code word for all that our attention can take in lightly in every direction, infinitely, without moving, without being changed by what it finds. Ground, sound, breath. And you'll see that everything is in conversation, but the essential self is simply of it, observing it, a part it has no need to exert any effort. And if you find that this right here, this ease is eluding you, and you find yourself struggling or questioning or whatever you find yourself doing, that is your right here. It feels a little tricky, but more and more we'll get the hang of it. Check to see that you might be including enjoying yourself. And again, if that's not true for you, then that's your right here. In some way, welcome it. It wants to be seen, recognized. Few more breaths here. And so another transition. The palms find each other easily, and we bow, and don't hurry through the bow, but rather let yourself feel its language, its gesture, and what it means. And for a moment, maybe even before you open your eyes, close them again if you did. Just notice or choose something of this time we've been together that feels valuable for you. And sense into it, feel it again if you can conjure it up or remember it. See if you can activate it again in your imagery, give it the colors and sensations and sounds and words that might describe it now, present in this, present here. It might be as simple as, for me, it's coming like a stop sign of stop and get out of this conversation. Just stop. And it might be a useful little cliff note to take with you through the week. So thank you for joining me and exploring, really truly getting into the pure here now and into the conversation, out of perhaps what are old, not useful conversations, and helping us to move toward what will be more fruitful because it's coming from clarity and coming from freshness and what's true right here. And you might enjoy checking out David Whyte's talk with Krista Tippett on being.org. He talks about, he reads several of my favorite poems, the Something Darkness, and reads from his book Consolation, Vulnerability, and Belonging, I think, is pieces of that are read. And one of my favorite poems that I think I shared here recently, Everything is Waiting for You. Ciao, ciao. See you next week.